Obesity is a major health crisis facing the United States today, and the problem is only getting worse. A 2005 to 2006 study by the National Center for Health Statistics shows the number of obese Americans has nearly tripled, and the number of extremely obese Americans has increased almost 7 times since the 1960 to 63 study. The results of obesity are a slow, painful death. It is a problem that we can no longer afford to tuck away in a closet and not talk about. Something must be done. Today we will discuss the causes of obesity, the consequences of obesity, and solutions. Obesity is caused by a lack of energy balance. In order for a person to maintain their weight, the amount of energy they consume through calories must match the amount of energy they use through physical activity. If the energy in is in excess of the energy out, the person will gain weight. If energy out exceeds energy in, the person will lose weight. While a person's genes may influence how fat is stored within their body, genes do not make a person overweight. In order to gain excess weight, a person must consume more calories than they use. This is also true with other common explanations for weight gain. For example, while it's true that many people gain weight when they quit smoking or begin new medication, it's not the lack of cigarettes or new medication that causes weight gain. It is the increased calorie consumption. The American lifestyle has become more and more sedentary, while our food choices have become more calorie-rich. This explains why a majority of Americans are now overweight. For example, a 30-year-old typical American woman who does not exercise on a regular basis burns about 1,700 calories a day. Now, 1,700 calories may sound like a lot, but let's take a look at an American lunch. According to McDonald's.com, a meal consisting of a Big Mac, a medium French fry, and a medium Coca-Cola adds up to 1,130 calories. Multiply that by 3 to account for the other 2 meals in a day, and we get a total of 3,390 calories. In this example, the energy in is almost double the energy out, leaving us with a calorie surplus of 1,690 calories. 1 pound of body fat is equal to 3,500 calories. So the woman in our example will gain 1 pound of fat every 2.07 days. This adds up to an astounding 176 pounds per year. This example may sound extreme, but take a look around. Americans are getting bigger. People often do not make a conscious choice to be overweight. Most become overweight as a result of lack of education about food and their emotional eating or addiction to food. The majority of people have no idea how many calories they consume on a daily basis, nor do they know how many calories they should be consuming to maintain their weight. The only way to ensure healthy weight is to read labels and to know what's going into your body. Many people have an addiction to food. They use food as a way to escape their emotions. They eat because they're feeling rather than eating because they're hungry. Unfortunately, addiction to food does not get taken very seriously in our society. We tend to ignore and even enable food addiction. Some current trends embrace obesity as if this is a positive trend. Examples of this attitude include the new wave of plus-size models and discussion in the media about the new bigger American women. I recently observed a conversation around a lunch table about how the new American woman is a size 12 instead of a size 6, and stores should carry larger sizes. While it's certainly not constructive to be judgmental and condemning, it is very damaging to be so enabling. While we do not enable drug, gambling, or alcohol addiction, why would we as a society find it appropriate to embrace obesity in this manner? The result of unattended obesity is an early death. According to the Surgeon General, the consequences of obesity include diabetes, heart disease, many types of cancer, breathing problems, reproductive problems, increased risk of arthritis, depression, and the list goes on and on. According to the Centers for Disease Control, the top 3 causes of death in the U.S. are heart disease, cancer, and stroke, all of which are in many cases caused by obesity. Diabetes is the 6th leading cause of death in the U.S., with over 80% of diabetes patients being overweight. The result of obesity is a life of suffering and premature death. Worse yet, obese parents often pass their poor behavior on to their children, resulting in the premature death of a whole new generation. Children who grow up to be obese do not have much of a chance of a normal life, and if they carry the behavior into their adult life, they will certainly suffer an untimely death. This is why we cannot afford to ignore the problem of obesity, or worse, enable the problem of obesity. It's not only ourselves that's being harmed by our poor decisions, we're literally killing future generations. Solutions to the problem of obesity would be centered on support, education, and changes in lifestyle. As previously mentioned, many people who suffer from obesity also suffer from depression. The solution is not to treat them poorly or to condemn them. They should be treated with kindness and encouragement. They need to believe that they are worth living for. The single most important factor to weight maintenance and weight loss is an education about food. One way people can work to educate themselves is by keeping a food log. A food log is a list of all foods and beverages consumed in a day. It's helpful to document the number of calories for each item so that a total daily calorie consumption can be determined. This is the first step to stopping weight gain. Creating a calorie deficit makes weight loss possible. A goal of 1 pound of body fat per week is reasonable. For our earlier example, our average American female would consume about 1,200 calories a day, creating a 500 calorie per day deficit. 500 calories times 7 days gives us 3,500 calories, or 1 pound of body fat per week. Incorporating exercise to increase the number of calories used is another great way to assist weight maintenance and loss. It is worth noting that the average American woman needs about 1,200 calories a day to provide the body with the nutrients it requires. So cutting calories too much would be unhealthy and would probably lead to a feeling of deprivation, which almost always results in binge eating. Each time we make a choice to purchase a healthful meal, we are part of the solution on a grander scale. Food companies and restaurants supply only what the consumer demands. If more and more people begin choosing healthful meals, the food company will have no choice but to begin producing more healthful options and doing away with high-calorie, over-processed foods. On a public level, a dialogue needs to be opened up about obesity. It is a public health crisis that kills hundreds of thousands of people each year. Programs should be implemented in schools that teach healthy relationships with food. A system should also be implemented that deals with the families of obese children. Although causing a child to be obese is not intentional harm caused by the parent, it is very serious harm nonetheless, and something should be done to assist the parents and children in achieving a healthful lifestyle. This system should include support and assistance, not judgment and incrimination. Steps should be taken to encourage healthful eating on a public level. The healthcare bill that was passed in 2009 requires that chain restaurants, more than 20 outlets, include nutrition information on their menus. This is a huge progress towards addressing the problem of obesity. Some major cities, such as New York, incorporated similar laws some time ago, and studies have proven the results beneficial. Another way the government could help would be to incorporate a special tax on sugary beverages. A similar tax has already been incorporated in Washington State. Just as there are taxes on cigarettes, alcohol, and canning, a tax on unhealthy foods would cause people to think twice when making their decisions, and it would generate money for underfunded programs. Placing restrictions on the type of food that can be purchased with food stamps would be another helpful way to combat obesity on a public level. Food stamps are an important government assistance program, but they should not be used to purchase sugary beverages and processed foods. It does not make sense to spend government funds on these items only to later spend more government funds treating the resulting diabetes, heart disease, etc. Today we discussed the causes of obesity, the consequences of obesity, and a few possible solutions. I hope this information has sparked a desire in you to be a part of the solution. Additional sources for my research not previously mentioned include the Reuters article titled "New York Study Says Menu Labeling Affects Behavior," written by David Morton, U.S. National Institute of Health Clinical Guidelines on the Identification, Evaluation, and Treatment of Overweight and Obesity in Adults, and What Causes Obesity, and the Washington State Department of Revenue Carbonated Beverage Tax. Thank you for listening.